Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Just wanted to let you know that on Monday, you can get the Strong Residency Letter of Intent free. You go to residencyhelp.com if you want a link to the Audible version. I know they're on sale for Audible members, but if you want the book version, you have to go to Amazon. And on there are two buttons. There's one button that says if you are in Kindle Unlimited, then 0.00, you can already get it for free. But if you are not in Kindle Unlimited, then you would wait till Monday, and the normal $9.99 that it is will go to 0.00. And you want to click on the little tiny 0.00 under the Kindle Unlimited on Monday if you want to get that. What I wanted to do in this episode was talk about a post that I saw on social called I'm a PGY2 RPD, ask me anything. And what I'm just going to do is go through some of the questions and answers as if I was a PGY1 RPD and the conversations that I had at mid-year. And a lot of these questions are pretty straightforward. So I didn't number them, so I might do that as I'm kind of working on this. But first, they just asked what specialty this person was, and the person is an emergency medicine RPD, and they asked about GPA. So GPAs, he says, she says that they don't really matter as much, but you still want to have a 3.0 or higher. But if you do have a bad GPA, you want to have a good explanation for it. What they really wanted to know is, are you in emergency medicine because you are interested genuinely in emergency medicine, or because the job market for an emergency medicine pharmacist is good? The PGY1 equivalent of that is, are you really interested in ambulatory care or hospital, or are you trying to split the difference and just get any residency because maybe you're place-bound? And this is not uncommon. But there was a successful match. Key Gales from Drake University in episode 217 was very upfront and said, I see myself in ambulatory care after, but I would be equally happy to do ambulatory care or hospital, and he applied to both. And he ended up in a hospital, PGY1, in Indiana. So again, you really want to just be honest with them, tell them your plans so that the conflict makes sense rather than them having to try to figure out, well, your CV says you've done all these ambulatory care rotations, but you're telling us you want to be hospital and you don't have recommendations from hospital and so forth. So consistency is important. Question 2, is there less busy work in PGY2? What they're saying is that I think that the word busy work is maybe the wrong thing, but what we're really saying is, are there more things that I'd rather not do that aren't in my interest in PGY2? And the answer is yes, there's much less that you would have to do that you really don't want to do. And that's what PGY1 is about. At least after the 5 or 6 weeks that you've gone through a rotation, you can say, okay, well, I really didn't like that. I don't want to do it again. You don't have to, and then you're done. But you may also discover things that you might not have otherwise. Third question was about market saturation, and the PGY2 RPD mentions that there isn't as much market saturation with PGY2 training, but again, sometimes travel is going to be required, so you can't necessarily stay where you are. Question number 4 was, should I have a big or small program, or does someone from a big program have an advantage? Really, this is kind of talking about, if you have a big program, you have more graduates. If you have more graduates, you have more people working in other places that can get you a job. It's the same as how close you are to the year ahead of you. So you may not have thought it was important as a third year to hang out with the second years, but you do realize that, or the fourth years, and then so what happens is if you do have good relationships with the people ahead of you, well, those people get residencies, and then you have them as connections. So if you're listening now and you're like a P1 or P2, you definitely want to be in one of those social organizations or organizations that transcends PGY year. So I was in Phi Delta Chi. I knew PGY 3s, PGY 2s, PGY 1s. PGY 4s, they kind of fall off the planet and they're homeless, so you can't find them anyway. But you definitely want to be in touch with those people ahead of you that might be doing the same thing you are. Okay. What are some of the major mistakes about interviews? And I love this answer, and that's never answer the question with, you answered all my questions. And this RPD says have at least 8 questions. That's kind of an arbitrary number, but you want to have a ton of questions available to show that you're interested and also to get those questions answered. But imagine somebody saying, well, what do you want to know about us? And you saying, no, I've got everything I need. And you don't want to do that. It shows disinterest. And they may say, well, this person isn't interested. We're not going to rank them because they didn't ask us questions. Okay. Letters of recommendation. What if you can't get the traditional ones? And one great advice he gave was, this is question number 6, was to get a physician recommendation. I heard someone else do this as well. And if your letter of intent says, I'm an interprofessional worker, getting a letter of recommendation from a nurse or a physician would make a lot of sense as you're kind of going through and saying, this person is really good with the nursing staff, or this has been really valuable to the physician staff. And remember, you can have different recommenders for each one of your sites. It's kind of up to you how you want to do it. It obviously becomes complicated, but in some places that might make a lot of sense. Okay, business cards, were they important? I took a couple business cards while I was out there, and I found that it was a lot easier. And a CV really does make no sense when you went to mid-year, but again, mid-year's over. So, and then he also asks, we'll make this one question number 8. How important is the letter of intent to you? And remember, we're talking about a PGY2 here. So in a PGY2, he's saying, well, all the letters of intent are kind of the same and kind of safe. And what some people worry about is, am I risking something by being a little bit different? And obviously, I've vested interest in this, but I think that you, of course, want to be unique and you want to stand out. And he says, well, those stories that, this article this person read should be saved for the interview. But the reality is that if you don't get an interview, you never tell your story. So I, again, believe that the letter of intent should be an original product that you make sure to agree with the site itself. Do you offer early commit? And then what is the candidate for early commit different? Yeah, the candidate for early commit they're going to be looking at their progress. So, is there any issue with their progress? Are they progressing along? Are they getting along? And then this might be something you didn't think about. When you become a PGY1 and you're at a place you want to early commit, you want to be with the PGY2 preceptor that you are thinking of early committing to, so that you can see if you guys get along. And it's both ways, maybe you don't get along with them or they don't get along with you, but that's definitely something you want to do before you try to commit to a year of it. Let's see, PPS interviews, same as on-site interviews, said, yeah, mostly the same. And then when you get asked a crazy question, it's because you're really impressive and they want to see how much they can push you. Or you're way out there and they don't necessarily think that you're going to be a good candidate. It's can go both ways, I guess. Okay, let's see. If they didn't go to PPS, is it okay to reach out by email before applying? I always think that you should in some way make contact and make it a meaningful but succinct contact. Thank you for... quick thank you if you did meet them and you got their card, or in some way, clarifying something that wasn't clear. One point of clarification that you want to make sure you make is that you don't call it the wrong residency. So a lot of times the residency is not named after the hospital, it's named after the health system. I remember this clearly, this really kind of famous musician when I was at the University of Florida came out there and kept saying, hey, Florida University. And it just kind of was like, yeah, you got the name of our college wrong. there's thousands of us here, and you didn't bother to get the right name. And eventually kind of switched it around. But that's one thing that most people overlook. Make sure you've got the name of the residency right, because sometimes they call it something health residency versus something hospital residency, especially those ones with multiple hospitals in there. Let's see. If you only had one question, what would you ask them? And then the PGY2 RPD says, why do you want to specialize in emergency medicine? Do you want to do it because it's got a good job market? Or are you really genuinely interested? And that's when you would provide the evidence that you've done emergency medicine rotation, critical care rotation, and then how you see it in your future. For PGY1, what you would do is want to make sure that if you're going into an ambulatory care or community or hospital, that is truly your focus, and that's truly foundation for the next step, because residency is just a tool. And they're going to figure out pretty quick that if you're saying, I want AmCare, and you're at a hospital interview, that things aren't jiving and it won't look good. Does your strength of institution matter? So for PGY2, does the strength of institution matter? It's really saying that, if you're in a good program, you're going to be much faster getting up to date in PGY2 and then getting on to the things that need to be done. But with hard work, you can catch up. What I think we need to put this on for PGY1, though, is, does your school matter? So last year, 16 schools, so a little more than 10% of the pharmacy schools, scored in the 70s, 60s, or 50s. And there's a new school of pharmacy, at least one, that's graduating their first class. If you're in that group, I would definitely include PCOA scores. In some way, letting them know, hey, I know that my school has a bad reputation with the NAPLEX, and I acknowledge that, and I'm not blaming anybody, but I just want to let you know that my PCOA score was second highest in my class, and I'm fully confident that I will pass both the NAPLEX and MPJE or CPJE, whatever it is. But there are certain schools that are red flags, and any school in the 70s, 60s, or 50s is definitely in trouble, maybe even the low 80s. I think that CPJE thing scared a lot of RPDs and are going to be looking a lot more at those NAPLEX scores from last year. Let's see. This is the LOI thing again. I kind of mentioned that. What can I do to, and so the RPD says, don't just kind of stick with the basic format. But I don't think that means be boring. I think you can put some impact into your letter without having to be boring. And each person that I'm working with their LOIs one-on-one is as unique as a thumbprint. And that's important because each of them is a different person with different goals, and then they're going to a different place. So mathematically, if you want to do the math on 8,000 people applying to 4,000 sites with an average of 12 applications to each site, you can see the numbers become pretty astronomical in terms of difference. So you wouldn't believe how similar the LOIs can look, and with just a little bit of work, you can make it both kind of look like that traditional one, but also say something which is a bit more, I don't want to say exciting, but certainly a bit more unique. Okay, and then someone had a problem with their rotation in PGY1 because of a delay in licensure, and then are they going to have a pharm academic profile access? And they said that PGY2 RPD said they only had pharm academic profile access for a short time after the match. So if they completed on time with good references, it wasn't really an issue. And then maybe you won't complete on time, although ASHP has said, hey, don't worry about the CPJE. That won't affect you, because even though you're going to get your license in January or February, maybe. But if you fail it, well, that's going to be a completely different story. So maybe something for a different podcast episode. All right, but to sum up, if you need help with your LOI, first go to residencyhelp.com, see if you can do it yourself. Go to I've got the videos and the podcast episodes there. Get the free book on Monday. See if the instructions in the free book can help you get an LOI. But you may just not be able to do it under the duress and the stress that's coming with the holidays. Obviously, writing centers are shutting down for most colleges. Finals week is here. It's hard to even get in there anyway. So if you need one-on-one help, go to residencyhelp.com and you can see how to get in touch with me. But otherwise, hope this was helpful. Enjoy the free book on Monday. And again, if you have other questions that maybe I didn't answer in here that someone else probably has, feel free to get in touch with me. By my three best ways are the email, aaguerra@dmac.edu, LinkedIn /in/Tony Farm or Facebook Messenger, and I'm Tony Farm D1 there because somebody else is Tony Farm D. All right, have a good weekend. Hey, thanks for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about the interview process, go over to Amazon.com where you can check out 100 Strong Residency interview questions, answers, and rationales in print book, ebook, and audiobook.